Sanat Polislamovich is the co-author of Junos High Availability. Thank you so much, Sanat, for joining me today. And before we start talking about the book, why don't you tell me what you do for Juniper Networks?
I work as a systems engineer.
Okay.
So I basically work in sales with customers, helping them design their network, and at the same token also take their information back to our PLMs and make sure that we develop features and equipment based on customer needs.
How did an engineer in sales decide to write a book about high availability?
That was more of what we do with our free time. Okay.
And you read a book like this,
correct.
Huh?
Well,
pretty impressive.
Correct. At that time, we had an entire team that we were looking what's needed as far as the press, and we had different ideas about it. There was a QoS, quality of service book, that was on the table, and we discussed that, and we didn't have enough people to do it. So this was another book that we thought that was needed at market at that particular time. The reason why is we have books that are particular to routing, we have the books particular to switching, for certifications, but there's not a single book that actually covers high availability as a concept, as whole network solutions.
All in one place, all in one
Correct,
book.
correct.
Now, I have to admit, I have not read all 600
that's so
some odd
sad.
pages. I will get to it, I promise.
No.
But why don't you share a few of the highlights or a few of the nuggets that readers can find inside?
It covers everything that networks needs from A to Z, right? So it talks about different aspects of routing, of switching, scripting, anything that will make the network more highly available, meaning less downtime. So what it does, it has a lot of tweaks to configurations in the routing world, in the switching, like VRP issues, BFD, and the new fast converging protocols and whatnot. So everything that will the operator use to make his network highly available.
Who is the target audience?
So it would be, in this case, network operators, architects, solution designers, whoever deals with, I guess, making a constant uptime of the network.
And I understand that it's not, a study guide per se, but would it help in, people who want to become Junos certified?
Definitely. There are a couple case studies in the book. There's one that has to do with the routing policies and whatnot, and then MPLS. So JNCIP and JNCIE certifications definitely can utilize this.
Now let's get a little bit more specific. Do you have any advice that's in this book to help people really attack the problem of high availability?
Well, there's full 600 pages of advices, right? But
the Cliff Notes version.
Okay, so I guess the primary idea here is, and we cover this in chapter 1,
okay.
It's a cost model. The modeling cost of building high availability versus cost of loss of the services.
Sure.
So whenever it makes sense to build networks highly available, invest into routing and redundancy, in the people designing these things, right? Because that's also a cost, versus loss of services. We say yes, utilize the book, utilize equipment, utilize the protocols to build that network to be highly available.
Give me an example of where this network could be utilized.
Anywhere where the cost of loss of services is huge.
Too great,
for example, financial services, okay, stock market. You're going, you and I, we're small fishes, okay? If you go and trade online, we only trade a couple $1,000s, whatever it is, but let's look at, banking institutions, right? And they put like a put orders or call orders on their options or whatever, and loss of, let's say, 10 seconds or so can cost them $10 million. So definitely, that's where the book comes into play, and building the networks this way makes sense.
And that's just one example. You can think of all the different industries out there.
Correct. Like service providers, for example, they have to meet their SLAs with their customers, and if they don't meet them, they have to pay penalties. So that's also another key factor there.
Industry standard, 5 nines, but in this book, there's some talk about 7 nines.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you address that? And,
so there was a discussion about 7 nines, and as you said, mostly in industry is 5 nines. Going forward, everything is moving to IP world, which means everything rides on our boxes. So as I said, financial services, enterprises, service providers, your voice calls, your cell phones, your microwaves, your parking, everything's going to be on IP, right? So which means the cost of loss of information is higher than it used to be before. Therefore, the redundancy and high availability has to have a little higher notch.
So we may not be there yet, but that's where we're going.
That's correct. Well, we think we are with everything we have today. There's always room for improvement. So yes, we are moving into directions such as the forwarding redundancy, the hierarchical fib, which is just gives us different options in a forwarding plane to make them converge faster. Then in MPLS world, we have a concept of tail-end node protection, again, to make the services converge faster.
And that sounds like all the material in the sequel to this book.
Definitely.
But in the meantime, we've got your Junos High Availability book. Thank you so much, Sanad, for joining us. Appreciate the information.
Thank you.